Not again. Breathe. Relax. Why do I keep doing this to myself? Oh, God, not tonight. Please, I don't want to die. What about my wife? What's my wife gonna do? No. Breathe. Just relax. Just breathe. Lord, my kids. What are my kids gonna do without a dad? My kids can't be without a dad. Breathe. Relax. Why? Why do I keep doing this? I know how to prevent this. Why? Why do I allow this to happen to myself? Why do I do this to me? Oh, God, please. No. Just breathe. Relax. Relax. That was not even 5 months ago. Almost every night I went to sleep. I'm gonna tell you a story. My life has been very extensive. I've got to do a lot of things, and I've got to live in ways that so few people have. But I've also struggled in ways that nobody needs to. So I'm going to ask you to just listen along. And I've written down my weight loss story. I wanted to do this months ago. And I wanted to make sure that I memorized it and had it all great and everything. And every time I tried, I would add more to it. Or I would skip over a part and then go back. And I kept thinking, wow, I want a nice dramatic kind of scene going on. Put it in black and white and cool and a couple different angles. And I realized it shouldn't be about that. My story's long enough and struggled enough that if you are interested in being able to relate to, you can off of that. A lot has changed in the past 5.5 months. But let's start back in 1997. I was 21 years old. And I hit the weight room every day, 6 a.m., working out with a strict weightlifting program. At that point in time, it was a revolutionary high-intensity interval training mixed with weights. I've always been looking for that bigger, better thing. And I seen serious muscle gain. I did. I got to a point to where I could put a 32 ounce gas station big gulp cup on my chest. You know, I did see some weight loss, and I was definitely in better shape. However, my diet was really poor. You know, I had no diet knowledge at all. I had no health knowledge of what food I needed to be taking in. You know, it was low nutrition, always on the protein hunt, as everybody who's lifting weights. That's what we do, is look for the protein, need more protein, and forget everything else. At that point in time, I was around 360 pounds when I started, which is some serious weight on a 21-year-old body. I'd always been fat, always. So this story is just going through where I started trying to do things. And I got down to like 280 pounds. But a couple of life changes, and I didn't hit the gym. I didn't hit the same routine or the same ambition, and the weight came back fast, and I was discouraged. I got up to 340 pounds plus. In 2001, I bought a total gym, seen the Chuck Norris info commercial, and that is what I needed to do. It was going to be fantastic. It's going to be great. I think I paid like $1,700 for that thing at the time. I bought the one with the the pull-up bar and the little platform to do squats on and all that good stuff. You know the one. You've seen it. And it was on a payment plan. It was fun for a bit. But I never got results. I didn't look like Chuck Norris. I didn't lose weight. I just never got them. So guess what happened? In 2003, I was up to 380 pounds. And there was a big kick then, or at least that I seen, of the Atkins diet. Atkins to the rescue. No, not even close. I spent a full year focused to the T, and I'd got down to 275 pounds. Again. And as soon as all my results started going backwards, I got discouraged. Off the diet I was. I couldn't handle seeing that I was doing everything to the T, and I'd got to a point where it was almost, that plateau thing, and I started gaining weight. I was eating just the eggs and the cheese and I was focused on the Atkins diet. I read the book twice. I read it again when I was failing. And, well, that was it. I was done. Then the weight really came rushing back on. In 2007, I'd gotten married, and I was at least 320 pounds. In 2010, I was told by a doctor to get my affairs together. My health was failing fast at 34 years old. Doctor looked at me and asked, "Have you written a will yet?" I had sleep apnea. I had high blood pressure, diabetes. My vitamin D was so low that they put me on 50,000 units a day. The doctor wanted to load me with all kinds of prescription drugs. He made the comment he'd never seen someone so nutrient deficient, and was baffled that I was morbidly obese as well. I was deficient in everything. That's what our modern diet will do to us. At that point in time, I had 2 little girls, and I wanted to be a daddy. So I left that office knowing that if I got onto all these prescription drugs and everything after watching what had happened to my mother with things, that I didn't want to do that. I wanted to grab the bull by the horns, and I knew that the shape that I was in was self-induced. I was at least smart enough to know that it was stuff that I'd done to myself. My diet choices, my drinking choices, of alcohol and soda pop and everything else, they were all my choices. So I started watching what I ate, and this time I was focused on nutrition and nutrient-dense foods. If it wasn't nutrient-dense, if it wasn't a really nutritious kind of food, I didn't want it. So I got on the CPAP machine, and I had a horrible, horrible experience with that. However, with the diet and a bit, it did work. I was losing weight. After 3 months of 50,000 units of vitamin D a day, my vitamin D finally started to raise. I know some people are like, well, vitamin D, just go out in the sun. I was extremely nutrient deficient. When he said get my affairs in order, it was for a serious reason. So at that point, my vitamin D was close to normal. Now I added juicing and really focused on nutrient density. First page done. We have a few more. December of 2011, I was down to around 300 pounds from 480 pounds. When I went to the doctor in 2010, I was 480 pounds, almost a quarter of a ton. So in 1 year, I'd lost 180 pounds, or roughly right around there. I was able to stop my CPAP machine because it was so damn uncomfortable. It never fit right. I couldn't stand it. And I'd lost enough weight that I was able to sleep through the night. It wasn't a struggle for me anymore. At 480 pounds, I was suffocating because of how big and heavy I was. It was a struggle to breathe. I needed the CPAP to be able to breathe. And I joined a local Anytime Fitness, and I was working out daily. I'd modified the program that I was using way back in 1997 and 98 to fit a little bit more on modern things and a little bit more fun. Muscle gains were solid, nothing fantastic, but I wasn't looking to be gaining a lot of muscle. I was looking into getting in shape. There is a difference. I was looking for movement. My movement was amazingly great, especially for my size. I became more agile, and I'd always been somewhat athletic, even though I was fat. I was that weird guy who, could move around and stuff. But that's what I really wanted to focus on, was that movement. I've lost my spot. No, I haven't. But the gym owners came to me and they spoke with me. They wanted me to be the general manager of the gym. They were seeing my story. They were seeing what was going on and wanted me to do that. Obviously, it was a great idea for me. And in my mind, because I'd be at the gym every single day. I could work out the whole time. I was there in between helping people. I continued studying as I like to do. I became a personal trainer with NASM. I also took their nutritional courses and things as well. I started helping people. Almost a quarter of our gym membership I coached. It was a small town of under 5,000 people, and we had just under 500 members. If you know much about gyms, statistically, that's a hard thing to do, is to have 10% of your local population at your gym paying a monthly membership fee. Our gym was a great little community. 10% of this whole area was coming. I started working with a lot of the local police officers and training them. Yes, I was still overweight, but they could see that I could move and I had endurance. And our local police department had as many almost volunteers, or they aren't called volunteers, but part-time police officers and stuff, that when it came time for them to be meeting their requirements, they were struggling at it. But I was able to help them. Between diet, nutrition, and exercise, people would constantly gain mobility and agility, free movement, feel better energy. So everything was clicking for me. I was doing a program that was working not only for me, but anybody who worked with me. We were seeing great results. It wasn't focused on building bulk. It wasn't focused on building strength. It was focused on freeing you, so to speak. In 2011, Anytime Fitness, the corporation, recognized me as an I2I. Inspired to inspire. They flew me out to Washington, D.C. They put me up on a stage, pranced me around as an achievement of hopes for other people. I liked the excitement of it, but I didn't like being paraded around like that. You've seen these success stories. You've seen Jared, the Subway guy, at that point in time. You've seen these things. And I want to be helping people, but I felt like I was part of an infomercial. or, you know, I was just a marketing ploy in a sense. Don't get me wrong, Anytime Fitness was great, and the owners and the founders, both of them spent time with me and were very warm, very welcoming, very real people, and was really nice to spend time with them. However, at this event, I started focusing on finding all the personal trainers I could, all the nutritionists. See, I was sent there for one thing. I was still on a mission. I still wanted to better myself, and I still wanted to be able to gain as much from the experience as possible to be able to turn around and use that. I wanted to be involved with people who were making a difference, and there were hundreds of them there. I took hundreds of names, business cards, information, spoke for hours on end, most mornings until like 3 a.m. Back at it at 6 a.m. and finding who was working out, which guys were the most motivated or ladies, and talking with them. I didn't sleep much that entire trip, but I came back with notebooks of information and names. This was my networking opportunity, and I took advantage of it. I wanted to be involved in the fitness world, and I wanted to make an impact that nobody else had seen. I'd found some amazing trainers. I'd found some amazing nutritionists, dietitians, all walks, and everyone, most everyone, was willing to help freely. So I added some things to my plan. I went back and started doing a little bit more with it, working on it. I did some tweaking, some focusing, some changing, dropped a few things, added a few others. In 2013, I was running my own health-centric restaurant. I'd come back with all that information, and again, when I started in 2010 looking for the most nutritional dense food, nutrient dense foods, that was still the key. That was still a necessity, and it was lacking. So I started a restaurant, still working with Anytime Fitness. I was going, you know, to different cities and or different regions, states, and talking to these trainers, going back and forth, and having a lot of fun. And I was getting tired, but our restaurant was taking off fast too. We'd focused on local homegrown food, you know, that farm to plate, as fresh as possible. We worked with a few local farmers, helped build them up. Some were already there. Worked with Meskwaki Indian Nation on their nutrition plan that they were growing, which was fantastic, amazing. I could, you know, have them grow particular salad mixes that we wanted to run and what things we wanted to do in season. We worked with a local bison farm that has a huge herd of bison. We literally would pick which bison we were going to have butchered, and that's what we would serve in the restaurant. A lot of bison. And it was great. As business got bigger, with more challenges, I let stress take over. I started laxing on my nutrition. You think, owning a health food restaurant, why in the world would you ever lax on your nutrition? And I started drinking beer. I was going to relax. And in short order, everything was upside down. I know what my downfall is, and it should never come near me. As weight came back, and the physical pain and the exhaustion, as well as my mental health, the feeling of defeat, being overwhelmed, depression, I'm sure some of you can relate to that. Started asking myself, how can I promote and basically sell something I'm not living? It's one of the things I have a biggest problem with, is there has to be honesty in everything you do. You can't lie to yourself and expect success. You can't lie to others and expect it. People look at you and you're gaining weight and saying, my food is the best and healthiest in the area. Doesn't matter if it is or not. If you can't live it, why do they want to pay for it? By 2015, I'd gained most of it all back. Most of that weight had come back. I was drinking heavy beer, liquor, and I went to sleep one night, and I woke up with a weird fluttering feeling. Almost my whole upper body was just weird. I don't know how to explain it. This anxiety, weird fluttering feeling, but mainly in my chest. I fought going back to sleep. I didn't wake my wife up. Didn't wake my kids up. Nothing like that. And I fell back asleep, not knowing if I was going to wake back up. The next morning I did wake up. However, that feeling was still there. After an hour of a discussion with my wife, because she could see immediately something was wrong, I was taken to the hospital. When I went to the hospital and described the feeling and situation, they took me directly back into a room. They tried getting my heart rate, and they could not. They put other monitors on me and was struggling to get anything conclusive on what was happening. My heart rate was jumping from 30 BPM to 220 plus. By being in this state for close to 8 hours at this point in time, everyone started reacting very fast. They were hooking me up to an EKG, trying to get readings, moving me to a critical care room. I remember they were trying to get an IV started and draw blood. From drinking so much vodka the night before, being dehydrated, not drinking water, they couldn't get a vein anywhere. They're having huge difficulties poking me from one arm to the other and back and forth. They couldn't get anything started. At this time, they started discussing whether they were bringing the helicopter in or they're going to transport me by ambulance to a bigger hospital. Being so fat, they didn't know if they could even fit or put me in the helicopter without hitting the overload limit. There's a weight restriction on these helicopters to run a 3-man crew. If you're over 400 pounds, they start taking this seriously on whether you can even go in a helicopter. I was confused because I felt really good, in fact, euphoric. This bewildered everyone around me. They couldn't understand. One, how I was even conscious, with my heart constantly dropping, crashing to 30 BPM or less, and then skyrocketing to 220. Back and forth, nothing stable at all. They finally got an IV started. Good enough, they threw me into the ambulance onto a bigger hospital. On the way, the IV failed 3/4 of the way to the hospital. It was about an hour away total there. The paramedics had no reason to try to get it in a moving vehicle. They're going to get me down there ASAP. Lights and sirens blasting we went. My euphoric little feeling bouncing in the back of that ambulance. Thinking about my wife, my kids, confused. I was not taken to the critical care unit. I was taken to the level below that or above that, or not quite as bad, however you want to put it. So I wasn't quite in that bad of condition, but they had a swarm of doctors and nurses. They were giving me more attention than I've had in years. I had to go to the bathroom and wanted to get up. I had to pee, and they fought me on letting me get up because they wanted me completely still. They didn't want me moving at all. After a persuasive argument, they let me get up to go pee, go into the bathroom. The reason I argued so bad is because I knew with my weight, my size, my extra bulk, I know there's a few guys out there that are going to understand exactly what I'm talking about. Me in a bedpan laying on my back was only going to make a mess. Let that sink in to how you have to feel as a man. I had to stand to pee. That's all there was to it. Still, everyone was bewildered that I was feeling euphoric. I'm feeling fine in a sense. They didn't understand it, how I could be feeling that way. They bring in a specialist. They ended up having to put an IV in my neck because they couldn't get it in anywhere else. It is something they do not like to do, I guess, is stab you in the neck. Who knew? I didn't. But it's the only thing they could do at that point in time. They needed to get certain drugs in to try to get my heart under control. The doctor came and spoke with me with a very interesting accent. He came and informed me that I was in AFib, that they were putting me on different drugs, trying to get that under control, trying to see what would happen, and they were going to monitor very close to see if they could get my heart to come out of AFib. Basically, he explained to me my heart, the way it was beating, was causing a froth and having very high potential for a stroke. When you stir blood real fast, it becomes thick. They don't understand how I was able to contain that long without actually having a stroke, because my blood was basically in a blender and turning to whipped cream. After a day and a half of monitoring and drugs and more drugs and trying to get things right, my heart would not come out of AFib. It was stuck there. So they ended up putting me under, taking me to defib my heart. They shocked me 3 times to get my heart back to the normal rhythm. It wasn't the first time that I was close to death, but it definitely had a serious reality. Over the next couple of years, I fought with AFib. It took a while getting the drugs leveled out, which ones I had to take, how much, so on and so forth. I had multiple episodes of AFib and a few more emergency ambulance trips to get things under control. That wasn't enough motivation for me to start getting into shape right then and there. But in February of 2016, I started back and focused on nutrition. May 2016, I focused on cutting firewood and roasting coffee, starting to be able to move again. I started once again taking my nutrition very seriously, knowing that more nutrient-dense foods, the more nutrient-dense foods that I had, the better I was. So again, I started focusing on whole foods, whole grains, everything and as close to unprocessed as possible. Everything home cooked. Everything as fresh as possible. Meat, fish, deer, whatever was the best that we could find. I even started juicing and a lot of smoothies just to try to get enough nutrient-dense foods in me. By this time, I had realized that my health wasn't about limiting necessity, how much I ate, as long as it was the right foods. In August of 2016, I was asked to take over a department for a hardware store, the Outdoor Power Equipment Division. It had been failing and having struggles. They'd gotten my name from some of the work that I had done previously, and the work that I'd done so far as business startups and revitalizations, this was working very well for me. It was fitting my schedule, and I was still able to maintain my diet, which has always been a struggle in whatever job I was doing, to make sure that my nutrition was able to come as a priority. Any little hiccup and I would falter. I'd fail. It's just how I am. I need things exact. And it's been proven many times over. I need ritual habit. I know I need to eat every so often, or at this point in time, that's what I needed to do mentally, is I needed to eat about every hour. April 2017, peak weight loss of 220 pounds. I was down to 260 pounds. The lowest I'd been since I was 15 years old. At 15 years old, I was 270. Well, it stopped recording for some reason. But we were at 15 years. At 15 years old, I was 270 pounds. Like I said, I've always been fat. The outdoor power business was growing. Everything was working fine there. I was able to keep my nutrition going. I was active to a point. I was able to keep my coffee business going for a little while. Then the coffee business started going to the background because of how much time and effort was taken to the outdoor power business. I started slacking a little on the nutrition, but not terrible. By the middle of 2018, the owner of the outdoor power equipment division decided that he did want to sell the division off. I just got told that the job that I'd spent the past 2 years working on and developing and growing was basically in the air. It was up to me to find its future. And I started looking and struggling and trying to find who would want to buy this business and me with it. I looked at trying to even possibly do it on my own. Financially, with the way everything was, I couldn't get enough capital together. So talking to many people and working many angles and developing relationships, I finally found somebody who was a great candidate to own the business. Someone that would benefit from it on many aspects. After months and months of discussions, talking back and forth, he finally decided that's what he wanted to do. At this point in time, my nutrition started failing even more. The stress of losing the business that I'd worked so hard for, the time and involvement that it was taking was just adding up to where mentally I fail, that I turned back to food. So as this discussion went through, once again I started drinking. I started with beer. But the business deal went through. I'm now a general manager of our current business. And the first year was a struggle. Tons of hours. Lots of working on things. And again, my nutrition was failing. I was failing myself. At the beginning of 2020, my health was poor. My weight was coming back on. Things were going rough. Then, all of a sudden, COVID hit. Odd thing is, though, as we actually didn't slow down. We didn't slow down for business at all. We are doing just as much business this time, if not more, than what we had the year before. as far as our services. However, our sales for the large equipment went up. There's more sales, more involvement than what I'd ever dealt with in the past on this business. In that sense, it was fantastic. On the other sense, my nutrition was on the background. My drinking was getting heavier. I'd turned to whiskey instead of beer because it's less calories and healthier. You just got to tell yourself what you got to tell yourself, right? By midsummer 2020, I was well over 425 pounds. Again. I was struggling physically on many aspects. Mentally was struggling, had become defeated again. Depression, anxiety, just flat out overwhelmed, knowing a change had to be made. It had to be made fast. I could feel it. But I didn't make the change right away. Continuing drinking, continuing eating, very wrong. More processed junk, burgers that people die for. If anybody had my cooking of junk food or bad foods, I give the Heart Attack Cafe a run for its money. Steaks, heavy meat, just everything that I knew in the back of my head was not helping me at all. Way too many calories. Eating huge portions. Knowing that I should never count calories because each meal was probably over 2,000 calories. Getting takeout food, fast food. I was supporting the local restaurants. Yay! You know, they were closed down. They'd order for me. They'd cook it for me. Go pick it up. You know, I didn't have time to stop for lunch or anything because work was busy. So I'd eat through the day. Distracted. Never taking time for me. Finally, in late November, I wanted to take the girls on vacation to a place called Elephant Rock. It was an area I greatly enjoyed in my younger days with hiking and camping, the wilderness. An absolutely beautiful place. My thought was I would get in shape for this event. I knew that I had a month. I could be physically feeling so much better. I could walk more than 10 steps without being out of breath, which by September 1st, that's where I was. So through September, I continued on the wrong path. Not being able to take more than 10 steps still without being out of breath. I continued. In October, it was my birthday. Still drinking. Still eating. Knowing that it's only a month away before vacation and hiking. Struggling, I needed to do something. However, my bonds to food and alcohol are very tight for some reason. I couldn't break them. And I knew it was all just in my head. Vacation time. I wasn't all in shape. The first day we drove down there, we got there a little early to Elephant Rock. We go directly there first. And we can go for a hike. I can show the girls an area that I fell in love with over 20 years ago. I had a new camera and I was excited to be able to take pictures and watch my kids enjoy. And as I walk up the path, not even 100 yards, I had to stop. The pain was almost bringing me to tears. My breath short, labored. but I couldn't let my family see. I didn't want to struggle. So many things were going wrong, and I knew it. So many things that I'm not even going to tell you how embarrassing they were. I rested for a bit, and we went on for a little ways. Again, this continued, and me having to stop and wait, and then go a little farther, watching the girls have fun. I so wanted to continue, and we got about a quarter of the way through with the trail. It's not a very long trail. And I was done. I had to go back. I knew any farther, I would never make it back to the vehicle. I was sitting on rocks and stuff. It wasn't working. The pain was there. I was exhausted. My joints burned. My knees could barely stay underneath me. We went back and drove around a while exploring the countryside while I could sit in the comfy seat of our vehicle with the heated seat going, trying to relax my back. We went exploring the backwoods of the Ozarks, enjoying the day. We got to the cabin, and I wanted to get some good sleep and be able to start the next day well. I was not done. Come hell or high water, my girls were going to be able to enjoy. They're going to be able to enjoy this. And I was going to be there for it. Next morning I got up. Not as fast as I wanted, but we did. We're moving around. We got to Elephant Rock, and I had an amazing day. Mentally, I finally accomplished. I accomplished what I knew I had to. I knew I could put all of that beside me and down and work through the pain, work through the struggles. I knew that I had it. I just had to get there. We were able to walk the entire trail, except for one little section that we'd passed just to go somewhere else and see more, because my girls were enjoying exploring so much. They were on that direction. That's where we were going. We were going to miss that other little off spur, because I loved seeing them climb and jump and run and play and chase. I got some great photos. I got some great memories that day. Some of the best that I think I've ever taken for photography. As everyone got tired and hungry, we went down, found some food. Not good food. But it was good. The rest of the vacation I was able to push through and still move. I was still drinking, however. It was a really good time, but I knew that for me to enjoy another one, I had to make the changes. The week of Christmas 2020. I'm 3 weeks back from vacation. I've always been motivated by watching other people, by watching informational stuff that many people would find dry. By reading, I sat down and took everything that I'd learned in my nutrition intake, took everything that I learned in my diet plans, so to speak. I took everything in my way of living that I knew for a fact worked. And I wanted to see what new has come out, and I started studying. Started studying to see what new information was out there. As I started studying in areas that I knew worked, I started seeing more and more direction of cutting out some of the things that I had in the past. Okay. Cutting out more meats. So I started studying in depth, looking at actual studies, the boring scientific stuff. Looking at people who actually studied the reasons, the why, the way that we metabolize the meat, the insulin effects, the acidic effects that most people would find boring. I find fascinating, and I always have a love of learning. But I'm slow at learning, and I really like learning off watching, listening. I have struggles reading. If you can't tell, I have struggles reading my own story that I've read through 40 times, trying to make sure I didn't stumble here. So after a few days of immersing myself studying information, literally almost 20 hours a day, I decided that I wanted to cut all meat out. Not as some political mindset or some stance to save the planet, 100% purely as to save myself. I know that when eating pure and healthy has always worked. I just wanted to see if this would work faster and better. And jump started. I know the quicker I see results, the better. I know the quicker my wife sees results and can actually see the difference between how I felt last week and how I feel this week is huge and helps everyone's mindsets. That has always been the struggle. I've coached many people along the way. I may get into that career again. When I managed Anytime Fitness gyms and worked with tons of people and weight loss, I really enjoyed it. But all that is going to have to be another section. I want to build on that though. So I've known all along what does work and what doesn't work. I've known which diets are the worst to put the weight back on. I've known what mental capacity it takes to do so. I've also known how weak we can be at times. I started Christmas Eve day. I know this can be a very hard time for people to start a diet, but it also has to go to show the mental fortitude you have to prepare yourself and be ready for. As my wife was making fudge, people were delivering cookies and snacks and junk food. The house was once again filling up with crap. I decided, no, I am done. My last drink of alcohol had been 3 days prior to this. Luckily, I know what nutrition, what vitamins and minerals are needed to actually help cope with detox from these kinds of substances. Yeah, it's true. There's certain vitamins, minerals, and certain nutrition that can help buffer the detox. Why do I let it be a stumbling block? I don't know. Oddly enough, detox from alcohol is about the same as detox from candy, sugars, and other junk foods. In fact, I've almost found detox from fast food to be harder for people to go through than detox from alcohol. So when people say, wow, you can just quit drinking like that, sometimes, yes. Or you can compound not only quitting drinking with cutting out the majority of your diet and changing, yes. It can be done, but you have to realize what detox is and what it can do to a person. Alcohol can have serious withdrawals and serious problems. Doing that over a few days may be easier on your body, but the willpower to only have one drink may be impossible. I've lost close to a combined 600 pounds in different settings of my life, multiple times. of around 220 pounds at a time. I've lost 180 pounds another time. Close to 100 pounds another time. As I sit here and realize I want to lose 280 pounds, that's at the time I wrote this, I know for a fact that when my body gets close to 200 pounds loss mark, I get to that 275 pound mark or below, my body wants to go into status quo. It is comfortable there. It is easy for me to get to that compared to the work and effort it's going to take to get past that mark. I'm inherently lazy. I am comfortable and content with just sitting still and quiet all day long. That does not bother me. My body can be extremely efficient. I can go with burning very minimal calories. Just nice and level and doing very little. This is a journey I've done on multiple times, and I'm starting again. However, I'm not discouraged to start this journey. I'm excited to. I'm happy to. I've mentally been preparing myself for this journey for a while. It started way back last August and September on vacation. It took that long for me to mentally start preparing. I want to live. I want to be able to bounce around. I want to be able to run. I want to be able to play. I want to be able to be living my life, not just sitting, waiting for the end. So with this, my journey started. You're welcome to follow along. You're welcome to be a part of the next chapter. I hope to see you there with me. If you have any questions, want to give any words, want to just follow along, hopefully you'll be able to see me here consistently, working through life, living it, enjoying it, and being willing to lend a hand for those who need it, and encouraging those who will never tell me, just because that's the space they're in. I hope you find encouragement.